amazing to see how it has been growing actually, like it is now, with so many people meeting and so many good concerts, so much things happening in the name of jazz. So that's good.
Hallo, ich bin Miriam Ast, ich bin Jazzsängerin und Jazzahead ist für mich eine tolle Möglichkeit, mit Veranstaltern, Labels und auch anderen Musikern in Kontakt zu treten. Und auch da ich in England lebe, einfach Kontakte mit deutschen Musikern wieder aufzufrischen. Und es ist einfach eine tolle Veranstaltung für den Jazz, wir sollten es fördern.
I started in a marching band when I was quite young, 11 or 12, played brass instruments and so on. Then I finally, I really wanted to play saxophone because I was a big fan of Pink Floyd. So, and they used saxophone in their music very early actually. So I was very happy when I started to play it. And I went to a school and got a teacher, and so I'm raised and born listening to pop and rock, not so much. I got to jazz when I was 17, 18 maybe, and really when I was very open-minded and had started to play. And from then it was the music for me I wanted to develop in, and I've been doing this since then actually, developing my own music and improvising. And I played soprano for some years, but stopped because I thought the tenor is so much interesting. It's so you have so many possibilities to create your own things. It's a fantastic instrument.
You're also open for, you know, traditional things in your music. So how did that happen? What was the influence to do that?
Yeah, that was a meeting with a fiddler that plays in my band called Håkon Høgmo, Hardanger fiddle. In Norway we have this special fiddle with 4 strings and 5 strings underneath, sympathetic strings. It's called the Hardanger fiddle. So when they strike, they always strike two strings, play, and this strings underneath starts to ring with. And I got the commission work and got connected to this guy and this fantastic music that is solo music for this fiddle. And I started to work with him and has been doing this for nearly 30 years, learning a lot of tunes, fiddle tunes. Started to work with Norwegian folk music very early, in the early 90s. And this is my main source of inspiration, I will say. The meeting with the Norwegian folk has developed my playing as an improviser, as a sax player, as everything. I've been listening much more to the folk music than traditional American jazz, for example. This is, and also been working mainly with klang, with the sound of my horn and putting sounds together. First time I played with this fiddle I was really amazed about, because the Hardanger fiddle has a lot of overtones and the tenor has also, how it really got together. And then I got interested in goat horn, horns from the goat, and been playing this for 20 years now. A very minimalistic instrument. You cannot play like fast scales and you have to find the music in other ways. And I always try to attack this instrument, trying to find new ways to play, trying to find new sounds inside of it. And sometimes it's hard, but it's a great challenge. And it's also about improvising, because you have to improvise all the time. The instrument says that it's not interested to play these 5 tones and only. You have to try to get into it.
Really analog.
Yeah, really analog.
It cannot be more analog.
Yeah. And this horn, in a way, triggers me. It triggering something deep inside, I think, because horns from bone is some of the oldest we have. Yeah, you know. So this, and I try to combine this. I've been composing for the goat horn and have different bands. Now I have a septet with 2 fiddles, 2 Hardanger fiddles, 2 keyboards and bass and drum that I've been working with since 2012, 2 albums, and it was really nice to start using 2 fiddles, because these are quite weak acoustically instrument compared to the tenor, you can really blow very loud. And so the sound of the band is really based on this Hardanger fiddle sound, I will say. And I'm using it different. I use it as an ostinat instrument and a klang instrument more than also melodies, of course. So I'm really happy working with this band and developing my music. So the latest album, Nunatak, got really nice reviews, and I'm very happy to get the chance to play for at Jazzahead. I did one concert. I think it was in 2010. I played the Go Torn solo.
Oh, really?
20 minutes, yeah, somewhere here. But very few people, and very different from now. It was okay, but very different from. So I'm also happy playing Schlachthof, because I really like that stage.
It's a nice location.
Yeah,
it's
it
really
is.
Nice location, nice
So
vibe, you know. It's really
I always, in a way, wished that I could play. So now it's happening. So that's really.
Norway there is this big jazz festival, Molde International Jazz Festival, and each year they have this prize that they give to someone young talent. And at that time I was still a young talent. No, I'm just kidding. But that's 10 years ago this year. And that's when they gave that prize to me and said, next year you will hold this concert at our festival, you choose what you want to do. And then I wanted to make the trio with Ivar and Alan. So I asked them, and that's when we started to play together. And we started out playing standards.
Yeah. Oh really, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean cool jazz. Interplay by Bill Evans, Line for Lions, you know the Chet Baker, Jerry Mulligan song, and
The Man I Love.
The Man I Love, and the Blackbird.
Yeah. But then you had one tune that was kind of rock-ish, one riff, and we're still playing that song actually.
Yeah.
It's still, we almost play that song on every concert.
Because it was no good when we tried to play that jazz.
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out, it didn't sound good. So we were like, we had to make, but that was just a way of we hadn't played together before that, so we just had to touch into something. That was a common place to start. You were talking about.
Yeah.
I wanted to make something that sounded a little like Led Zeppelin in a way, because that's very nice to listen to. I liked. So it's actually a Black Dog pattern-ish way of making, but it turned out to be more of a jazz tune-ish when we played it. But it was natural to play it louder, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
We agree.
But the first album it has a lot of jazz elements. It's almost double bass on every song except one, I think, with electric bass and two. Yeah. And it's just a more jazz kind of language. But we had a few more riff, but groove-based songs. But then on the second album, I think it was really fun to do those rock songs, sort of. And then for the second album, we did more. I think we did 10 songs that were really a bit shorter, but more riff-based. Confused that is it jazz or is it rock? But you're educated. Where does the difference come in? But the three of us are just making music based on what we've heard, you know.
And we've listened to a lot of jazz, of course, but we've listened to a lot of other things as well. And I think that's how it is for all of the people attending these jazz educations these days. I mean, they listen to rock or folk music, a lot of them, or pop music, or even heavier stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a result of that. We like jazz, and we are severely into our instruments, so we started the education, which means we kind of know a little bit about, or get into it, and then it's interesting, because when you know something a little better, it's more interesting to work with. So that kind of stuck.
Yeah, and also it's always an element of improvisation. Not only like, oh, now there's a guitar solo, but it's like, at least for me, I always get bored when someone says you have to play like this, you have to keep this beat, and then you have a break in this after the 4 bars. But yeah, there are songs and structures, but you can kind of put the way you hear it and play what you want. As long as it fits, it's not like this is the structure of a song and you have to do it like this, but this is an idea, and how can Ellen and Hedvig and I contribute in our own way. And I think the improvisation is very important, and that's maybe more the kind of jazz element, and even though it doesn't sound like bebop or swing or whatever, but it's the element of freedom in the playing, at least for me.
Yeah, definitely. And also that the music is supposed to be, it's a cliche, but free. I mean, and to us that means that if someone plays things differently than they did the other concert, then it's
I think
it's
we would get bored if we would had to play the same song, the same way night after night. So we try to every day find something new, and that's about the song that we were talking about that we played on the first album. We still play. I think we literally played it 1,000 times. We played it so many times, and on sound checks and on concerts for kids. And then it's like, wow, how can we try to do something new on this song for the 1,000th time? But then you just have to, really, put your brain inside out and try to find that new thing, even though you think you've done it all before.
Hi, my name is Balin Gyémánt. I'm from Hungary, from Budapest, and I just released my third album together with Veronika Harcsa, and we are very happy to work with Trumptone Records from Germany and with O-Tone. It's our agency. And I believe the Jazzahead it's very, very important, like to be on the European jazz map. It's just really the best place in the world. And also, you know, this kind of like work, it's a lot about emails, a lot about social media, a lot about YouTube. But here is the place where you can actually have the chance to like look into each other's eye and like have some handshakes, and so it's very important like to have something a little bit more like connected together with the people. So this is my 5th year with Veronica Harcha on Jazzahead, and also 3 years ago we had the chance to play a showcase concert here, and it's always a lot of fun to come back and look around, and also like just the checking what is happening in the Jazz Network.
This is the 3rd time I come here in Jazzahead. The first time I was completely scared by all these people, industry people. I didn't know where to go, but turned out to be a very useful thing for me. Since I came into Jazzahead, my concerts around Europe has decuplicated, and after 3 years my quartet really did it somehow. We're still working and we're still building, but Jazzahead was very important to establish direct connections with promoters, with agents, journalists also. So it was very, very useful, and it's very intense. I mean, you start working 9 in the morning and 9 o'clock. I don't know how people can go out and drink, because I go to sleep at 9 o'clock. I'm so tired, but it's very, very, very helpful. I'm really glad I came here this year again.
My name is Wojtek Justyna. I'm a guitar player originally from Poland, but currently I live in the Netherlands, where I lead a band called the Wojtek Justyna Trio. And it's a very multinational group consisting of German drummer Alex Bernhardt, Austrian bass player Daniel Lautersberger, and Portuguese percussion player and keyboard player Diogo Carvalho. We are currently promoting our 2nd album that is called Get That Crispy, and it's great to be here at Jazzahead to meet people, make connections and see old friends. And especially this year we're extremely excited because we're playing during the club nights our music from the new album, and we're really looking forward to it.
Experimental bands with a lot of amps and very loud sounds every night. So I was kind of, and I love that as well. And I play with pop rock musicians and artists.
Okay.
So I just thought about, I saw an opportunity to, wow, let's take it down a bit, not down, but like try to play in an acoustic setting, like a classic sax, bass, drums trio. I really love that, and we all share the same love for like John Coltrane, Ornette Coleman, as mentioned, Miles Davis, Wayne Shorter, Albert Ayler, Pharoah Sanders, Archie Shepp, Eric Dolphy, and Don Cherry, everything around that. The classic free jazz area, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Do you think there's kind of a renaissance of, musicians going back to that style of really honest, acoustic, direct, presentations and music?
I'm not sure, but it's kind of been a wave from in Scandinavia and in Norway that started with this ECM wave, like in the 70s, then got into more electronic jazz, and then into more recently jazz rock fusion scene. So in Norway maybe, and also in the States, I can see a lot of Ornette Coleman and Dew Redman, Don Cherry tribute bands these days, like Joshua Redman, Christian McBride, Tim Byrne, Dave King. Those guys having a focus on the free jazz scene, avant-garde scene.
Is something which is really typical for Norwegian jazz scene?
I think the feeling of freedom, like the way to interpret music and to free improvisation is not a genre. It's a method of approaching jazz music. So if you that has always been strong in Norway, I think, and the willingness to just challenge yourself and experimental with not so many frames around the music. I think that's a strong scene for, and it has always been there. No matter what form you're talking about or genre. So for me, it's like I would like to have a little bit of Ornette Coleman and Albert Eiler and Don Cherry in all my music, no matter if it's electric or acoustic. But in this band we have like a classical saxophone, double bass, drums setup, which makes it easy to maybe that people can think about a lot of more preferences because it's a classic sound. But we don't want to, I can just speak for myself, but my idea of this band is not to create some new genre or just find to make the dynamic again. But I really wanted to sound like our own band and that it really sounds like acoustic unity and no one else, and also have the that's actually the most important thing.
When you think about it, 3/4 like waltz didn't come into jazz really until the 60s, and except for Fats Waller, I think he did a jitterbug waltz, and then that developed also the 3/4 or 6/8 or whatever, you know. So and a lot of development happened in all kinds of arts in the 60s. So it was a very exciting time, really. At least looking back on it.
Yeah, exactly. So from the beginning of the 60s up to today, so you were part of all this development, building up, the jazz scene in Norway, especially, right?
Yeah. And my first LP was in '64, and it had Jon Christensen was on drums. And later, I had a band and different kind of trios, and Jan Gabarek came in and worked with us for a while, and many good musicians came along in the 60s.
Yeah. Was there kind of an influence, in building up or development of jazz in Norway, kind of influenced by Norwegian folk music or something like that, local things influencing that development?
Yes, we started looking into that in the 60s. And I had my great-grandfather in around 1870s. He was a composer and violinist, and he went around in the valleys and gathered folk music. And I knew that up on the loft somewhere was a big box of his music. But it took me up until the 90s to do something about the folk tunes that he had collected and written down. So I've been doing a little bit of the folk bit also.
Yeah, so it's kind of
because it gives room for improvisation. I was so lucky to be with Joachim Behrendt to put together a European downbeat poll winners, which had Albert Mangelsdorff, John Sermon, Jean-Luc Ponty, Eddie Lewis, Nils Henning Ørsted Pedersen, and we did actually a recording for MPS, and I've done for MPS India, Crippled Dick. Quite a few German labels, really. But we went to Japan, and I then for a while didn't see John Sermon but in the end of the 70s we saw each other in Nuremberg for a festival, and we talked about doing electronic music. Because I was interested in doing it, and I started doing it in the end of the 60s, because I was in Los Angeles working with Don Ellis' big band, and he was into using the Echoplex on his trumpet, and he said to me, "Why don't you do that on the voice?" So I started doing that, and then later on I went over there again, and he said, "Oberheim has made a new electric thing. Why don't you get one of those and couple on, And so I did. So I experimented a bit with electronic music, and so did John Sermon. So then we found out we should do a recording together. And we did one called Cloudline Blue, and then sort of worked on and off together. And I'm very happy to be working with him today. And today we have no electronics, nothing, no other musicians. We just have the baritone saxophone and voice. Because that's where we also started. Apart from electronics, we started. Let's find out what can we do with just the voice and the big saxophone.
Yeah.
And I usually say, if you have a really good musician, you don't really need more than one. So he's great to work with.
We have this huge Norwegian folk music tradition as well in Norway, and it could have happened that my
it could have been different steps in my own life that had led me more into Norwegian folk music. But for me, it was I was led into this during the gospel music and during my own travelings and during my own researches, led me more into the West African. But it's very much connected with this kind of same approach to explore and to try to find to create an open space for expressing. But I think we have a long tradition in Norway for this kind of mixture as well with the folk music traditions and also jazz music from a long period. Also with this more experimental and contemporary approach.
Hold me while you're leaving me, love you. You worry that one day I'll be gone. How long? But I don't know. Oh, you worry that one day I'll be gone. How long? Oh, but how long? Oh, you hold me while leaving, love. You hold me while you're leaving me, love. You hold me while leaving, love. You hold me while you're leaving me, love. You hold me while leaving, love. Hold me while you're leaving me, love. You.
In general, I've been listening. I listen to very much different kind of music, but I've been very much inspired by especially West African singers like griots, like Salif Keita, Numo Sangare, and Kandia Koyate, and Have Dumbia, and it's something about this. I will especially singers actually from Mali. I've been several times traveling to Mali, but also then South African traditions with the choirs. But what I really love with the more kind of griot singers is this kind of duality with so nuanced and so much tenderness, and it's at the same time this kind of authority and this powerful way of expressing, and this kind of spiritualized or that they are actually also, you know, being a griot, that you are born into this function of kind of sharing and to maintain the history of the villages and to bless, and this kind of spirituality within the music. It's really touches me. So it's been a very important influence, and as well as the kind of arrangements and the kind of flow. So that I would really like to say.
Climbing higher mountains, trying to get home. Heavy burdens, trying to get home. Lord, I'm bearing heavy burdens, trying to get home. I'm bearing heavy burdens. I'm bearing heavy burdens, Lord. Bearing heavy burdens, trying to get home.
The project actually I started to work with these songs some years ago, and my plan was to actually create new songs to work with my guitar player Olav Torget, who has been my key member in my band for 12 years or so, and I really wanted to have an intimate collaboration with him, or intimate like duo trio, and I really was curious about this core instrument because I've been working a lot with ngoni, konting, other kind of West African instruments, but I've been listening a lot to the sound of kora, but to try to actually create songs in my singer-songwriter kind of approach, but at the same time with this kind of shimmering sound and approach from the core instruments. So I started up working with Ablaye Sissoko, that is also a gorgeous kora player from Senegal. And during the process and after some traveling, when I started to work and produce the album, I needed to do some changes, and then I heard these rumors about this young gifted kora player Sunto Suso from living in England actually, and it's been really a journey to work as a trio with him and Olaf, and especially to create these songs in that kind of that's has been really such an important exploration for my own musical journey, to go deeper into the Mandinka tradition, because this, I think, even though I've been influenced and having imprints of these West African approaches during all of my albums, solo albums actually, this is kind of, I've never been so in such close dialogues in a way with concrete Mandinka music like on my last album, and also where I have composed lyrics and where the poetry part, excerpts of the poetry is transformed into Mandinka as well, and that we also kind of doing chorus together and sing along in like a response with the Mandinka language as well, and that is also kind of way to go more deeper into also musically into the West African approaches. But it has been really a long journey, and it has needed to be a long journey to find this, because I'm so focused in this kind of rich tuned arrangements, not only to very often it's a lot of jazz music that adds, you know, core on top, like, because it's an easy instrument if you just have this kind of loop going on and you can easily improvise only on one chord, but to have to be only three persons, a guitar and a kora, and to have this kind of very integrated and this kind of naked expression, but also very well tuned arrangements with this kind of instrument that is basically flowing, you know, and to also to get it along with these chord structures, and so to find this right balance. So it's,
through my open windows this year as well, the sun dancing on my floor. How could I know? How could I know? I stayed this long. I stayed this long. Sandole matele, konolbe kumala. Sandole matele, konolbe kumala. This year as well, I'm watching the flowers grow through my open windows this year as well, the sun dancing on my floor. How could I know I stayed this long? How could I know I stayed this long? Sandole natale, konolbe kumala. Sandole natale, konolbe kumala. Sandole natale, konolbe kumala. And now, like a wonder, it's just like a wonder. Now, like a wonder, opening doors. Capture it all, and now like a wonder, it's just like a wonder. Now you come and opening doors. Life is still yours.